Wiener. Yeah, I know, nothing about what I just said sounds like even mildly appealing, but you know how you do it more efficiently than anybody else? You offer to give him a Nobel Peace Prize. So, Maria Cordia Machado said that she had given her Peace Prize medal to Trump, saying it was in recognition of his unique commitment with our freedom. She was the winner of the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, and she's given her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump during a meeting in the Oval Office. Many assumed she was the Venezuelan opposition leader, would be installed as the interim leader of the country after Trump's invasion earlier this month, deposing dictator Nicolas Maduro. And I like how I can't... Wow. I adore not being able to scroll down. That is just fantastic website design. That is wonderful. I have never in my life experienced something that is so fantastically horrible. What is this? Wait. Is this a website with a set of ads that are so fucking long that I have to scroll a fuck ton in order to get past them? The internet was a fucking mistake. I just made a video about how we get newer tech that does nothing but make us better, or does nothing but make shit worse for us, and this is a prime example. Social Migraine says, in your Renee Good video, at the 1830 mark, you said you're not suggesting violence towards ICE agent. Yeah, it wouldn't be a prudent thing to do. I'm sorry. And then you said it would not be safe to do so right now. That part felt contradictory to me. So let me go ahead and explain what that means real quick, because that's not a contradiction. Not in any way, shape, or form. I do not advocate for violence. I can't advocate for violence. I am not in a position to do so. I am a person on the internet whose job quite literally requires me to not do that as one of the main things, right? But I do recognize that there is a need for self-defense amongst minority communities, and there may come a time where they need to defend themselves from ICE agents more than just going and complying. Because let's go ahead and use history as an example, right? Let's use history as an example. The time to start getting violent whenever a deportation or a confiscation of a human being is involved is when that deportation or confiscation of the human being will lead to that human being's death. At that point, the options are fight for survival or die. We saw that with the Holocaust. And we can't just deny that shit happens because it has happened in the past. So when I say that, hey, there is a point where it would be safe to do so, I'm not meaning safe for the individual person. I am meaning safe on a social level. Because when the options are defend yourself and probably live to become fucking safe, or go and potentially die, again, something we have seen other countries do. Does that make sense now? How that's not a contradiction? Also, even in the world where it was a contradiction, you understand that these, generally speaking, are not edited videos. And as they are not edited videos, if I make a mistake, that shit just happens. It is a part of being human. Social Migraine says, by braining them, if a people or person were to brain an ICE officer agent, that would increase the already tension. Right, you're entirely correct. The point is, you do not engage in violence until that tension has already broken to the point where you are past the point of no return. Duh. By braining them, if people or person were to brain an ICE officer agent, that would increase the already tension between them and the people that despise them. To where ICE would be legal to use lethal force in self-defense. So, my argument is that when lethal force is already being applied to people, then those people applying the same force back to protect themselves is perfectly acceptable. If you remember, in that exact video that I did, I specifically mentioned people who were involved in the Holocaust, braining the Gestapo, people who, if they went to a camp, were all but guaranteed to be fucking murdered. Does that make sense? I used my example very specifically. That was entirely on purpose. At what point do you think that tension is actually to that point? I'm not an expert. Because if it was me, I would be... At what point do you think the tension is actually to the point where you should be retaliating? Because if it was me, I would be. And now you have Florida reporting increasing activity from ICE. Okay, cool. So, Two things. One, I'm not an expert here, so I don't know exactly when that point would be. Two, it would be ridiculously, absolutely, moronically fucking stupid for me to vocalize when I think that point would be, because that would be an incitement of violence if somebody could arbitrarily show that we had actually gotten past that point. And you understand that. So I couldn't even answer your question if I believed we had crossed that point, because that would be of monumentally detrimental risk for myself, my channel, my ability to keep the people that I love fed and safe. Just in general, asking your YouTuber person who has to be in front of a camera for their job, when is it okay to start shooting the people? When is it okay to start beating the people? No. Even if I had an opinion on the when, I would not fucking articulate it. Twilight Grim says it would basically become the case of the guy with the pick of the bomb vest getting the FBI in his ass. Exactly. And Mike, this is not the first time that, hey, there are certain things that I have to not fucking say because of my position. There are points in time where I feel like having to articulate that more than a handful of times is a little bit exhausting. Anyway, back to this weird shit. Following the meeting, Miss Machado said that she had given her medal to Trump, saying it was in recognition of his unique commitment to our freedom. She said, I presented the President of the United States the medal, the Nobel Peace Prize, and I told him this. 200 years ago, General Lafayette gave Simon Bolivar a medal with George Washington's face on it. Bolivar, since then, kept the medal for the rest of his life. Actually, when you see his portraits, you can see the medal there. It was given by General Lafayette as a symbol of the brotherhood between the United States, the people of the United States, and the people of Venezuela in their fight for freedom against tyranny. Yavelin says, when do we start licking people? Yesterday. And 200 years in history, the people of Bolivar are giving back to the heir of Washington a medal, in this case, a medal of the Nobel Peace Prize, in recognition of his unique commitment with our freedom. In an interview ahead of the meeting, Trump said to Miss Machado, she's a very nice woman. I've seen her on television. I think we're just going to talk basics. But just hours after the U.S. takeover of Venezuela, he said to her it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect. Pausing right there. Social Migraine says, am that... yeah, if there was any example of people having to off-the-cuff shit and getting it wrong, it's that one right there. Anyway, Social Migraine says, another thing, comparing ICE agents to the Gestapo of the German people feels like coded language are using to justify harm towards them. How? I believe that ICE agents are operating towards people in a similar vein to the early days of what happened with Nazi Germany. I am seeing them utilized in the same way, politicized in the same way. That is simply an honest take. It's not coded language for, maybe you should start fucking shooting people. No. That's not what I'm fucking saying. And if you need a clarification on that, then I can give that right now. I am not advocating for anybody to engage in violence. I do not think that that is a thing that would be smart to do. At all. But if you want to insist that I'm using coded language and you want to insist that you have a unique perspective into my brain such that you would know that more so than I would, then I'm sorry, but maybe you need to go fucking peddle ivermectin or something at that point, because obviously you seem to have a grip on the American conscience in a way that I can never understand. Your tone and choice of words in your video, believed me, you are brained Nazi. Your tone and choice of words in your video has me believing you are brained not. Do you English words? I'm sorry, but do you? I apologize, but maybe if you would like to criticize how somebody operates in a live environment, perhaps the idea of simply retyping your fucking statement in a way that it can be understood by a native English speaker when that is the language you seem to be typing in would be a great idea, because what I'm having a problem with right now is my inability to understand what the fuck you're saying in that last sentence. And yet you're spending a whole lot of time scrutinizing my choice of words. Tao says, only way to know what's going on in someone's head is with a boat saw. Hellbound Hillbilly, it wouldn't read like AI, because AI would actually use proper grammar. Comparatively so. I need people who say that reads like AI to actually use a large language model for a little bit, because that is not what an AI generated sentence looks like. AI generated sentences use as proper punctuation and grammar as they can manage. Their problem is they use a lot of em dashes and are incredibly fucking verbose. Those are your signs, not herder, it's illiterate, therefore an AI wrote it. Anyway, yeah, AI would sound pompous. Nethercat says, some MAGA trying to get Sirs to fedpost? Probably. I'm not super concerned if some random right-winger or even like centrist person tries to get me to fedpost. Doesn't bother me too terribly much. Social Migraine says, sorry about that. Your tone and choice of words in your video has me believing you are using coded language is what I meant in the last sentence. Okay. And I cannot convince you that that's not what I'm doing, because you seem to already be convinced of that. What I can Duke says em dashes are normal. I hate this. Yeah. So are fucking commas, and AI uses that as well. It's the obsession with them that AI really, really does. Jesus Christ. People have weird shit. Axo says, I hate it's not that deep right now, but it's not that deep. Yeah, it's really not. I do not want anybody from my audience engaging in violence when it comes to the US government. I do not think that engaging in that violence is going to produce any good outcomes for themselves. I do not think it's going to produce good outcomes for people who end up witnessing that situation going forward. I do not think that it produces good outcomes in general, and I believe it is gambling with human life. I would not advocate as hard as I do for democracy, for conversation, for going to a protest and talking to the people on the other side of the protest who do not agree with you. I would not do that if I also wanted you to just go fucking braining ICE agents. I think we should be using intimidation tactics, most certainly. There are more of us in general than there are ICE agents. But that's not saying go out with shovels and baseball bats and guns. That's saying go out in a peaceful protest where you literally have so many more numbers than them that they can't do shit. Social says, because that ruins their lives and yours and you would be responsible. I'm not saying that wouldn't be true. That would literally be a sarcastic terrorism at that point. Which is why I'm perfectly fine clarifying my statement to you. Does that help? Or are you going to try to do the thing where you start trying to push me into a particular corner? Which one is it? You have all the time in the world to respond. Dorito Dave says, actually, your clarification makes it seem like it's coded language. That's another thing. Like, even... we can accept a reality together, right? We can accept a reality where a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer, in order to keep their job, cannot advocate for those things. So even if I tell you that I don't advocate for those things, even if I tell you that, even if I say that, how would you ever be convinced of it? I literally have a financial incentive to not advocate for violence, whether or not that is what I want, whether or not I'm engaging in coded language. No matter how I approach this, you have an avenue to go, well, you probably just believe some other thing. That's just a thing you can do. You have that ability. So my question would be, what thing I could possibly do, what thing could I possibly do that would convince you that that's not what I meant to your satisfaction? And then we can have a conversation over whether that's even fair. Tal, thank you for the drink. Axo, Duke says, oh no, I meant I hate that people equate the M-dash with AI because they can't put more thought into it. Axo says, I don't completely blame someone for thinking, because you said before with Rhino that you're done playing by a different set of rules. Right, but not playing by the same rules, or playing by a different set of rules, means that I'll go as far as I'm willing to go, as opposed to censoring myself. But if as far as I'm willing to go isn't advocating for violence, then I'm not going to do that. Let's finish the article real quick. Said, but just hours after the U.S. takeover of Venezuela, he said of her, it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect of her country. She's a nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect. After reports circulated that she was planning the stunt, the Nobel Committee issued a statement clarifying that it was non-transferable. Once a Nobel Prize is announced, it cannot be revoked, shared, or transferred to others. The decision is final and stands for all time. After completing her meeting with Trump, Machado left the White House and briefly greeted a group of supporters who cheered her near the gate, exchanging hugs with many. And she said, "We can count on President Trump, the guy who just invaded your country for oil. We can count on him. Hell yeah." And in a moment of just weird timing, I'm not actually seeing any response from Social Migraine, so you'll have to go check out the stream bot if you want to see how that particular conversation concludes, I guess. Because I'm not going to deliberately sit here and wait with the Jeopardy theme music playing in the background while I wait for another response. That would be way funnier during a subathon when I'm actively looking for things to, like, prevent me from dealing with everything all at once. Till then, I should probably be up here on a warrior, right? Terrence says, "Is that burritos? I like burritos." Pretty sure that's newspapers, isn't it? I can't highlight it and see. Oh, anyway. That's the end of the video. Go click on something else. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.